Hi, I'm the lone journalist for KRAZ-TV with another book review. A great book. It's a real expose here. It's called Corruption in America by Zephyr Teachout. From Benjamin Franklin's Snuff Box to Citizens United. So it's a whole gamut of description of what corruption has been interpreted as. Zephyr Teachout is an associate professor of law at Fordham University, and it's by Harvard University Press. It says, when Louis XVI presented Benjamin Franklin with a snuff box encrusted with diamonds and with an insert of the king's portrait, the gift troubled Americans. While no one accused Franklin of accepting a bribe, the snuff box threatened to corrupt Franklin by clouding his judgment or altering his attitude towards the French in subtle psychological ways that could interfere with his responsibility to put the country's interest at first. This broad understanding of political corruption, rooted in ideals of civic virtue, was a driving force at the Constitutional Convention. For 2 centuries, the framers' ideas about corruption flourished in the courts, even in the absence of clear rules governing voters, civil officers, and elected officials. Should a law that was passed by a state legislature be overturned because half of its members were bribed? What kinds of lobbying activity were corrupt and what kind were legal? When does an implicit promise count as bribery? In the 1970s, the U.S. Supreme Court began to narrow the definition of corruption, and the meaning has since been further constricted. No case makes that clearer than Citizens United. In 2010, some of the most consequential court decisions in American political history gave wealthy corporations the right to spend unlimited amounts to influence the elections. Justice Anthony Kennedy, major opinion, treated corruption as nothing more than explicit bribery, a narrow conception later echoed by Chief Justice Roberts in deciding McCutcheons versus FEC, Federal Election Commission, in 2014, with unlimited spending transforming American politics for the worse. Warren's Teachout, Zephyr Teachout, Citizens United, and McCutcheon were not just bad laws but bad histories of the American experiment in self-government. To have a future, then we must revive the traditional meaning of corruption, embrace the old ideal. Wow, corruption, and we call it that, and it's rampant in America. The biggest bane, I think, is money. It's just really the money. And some people do want to have some kind of an influence, but as long as you don't ask somebody for something, or somebody like the officials telling you, now that's called extortion, when they say, well, to do this, you're going to have to give me this. But bribery, if you don't call it bribery, and it's a wink and a nod. But I guess what really ticked off Teachout, and I read the whole decision. I'm still torn between it because I can understand how the justices gave corporations a clear pass, but how they interpret it is that because it's citizens and we're not asking for anything, quid pro quo means this for that. So that would be the current definition under these justices now. And so what they did was Kennedy and Roberts and all of them went along with the idea that an association of citizens is the corporation. Well, I have a contention, and if that's the case, then every before the corporation can give this money, they should ask every stockholder, not by proxy, but vote. And if all the majority of shareholders don't agree with it, then the corporation can't go and say, I want to influence. So that would really help, and then we could still have corporations giving money. But that's only with the majority vote of the people, not the higher-ups in a few echelons, and saying, now we have our way, and not even tell the stockholders. All they say is, we did it in your interest, and you're getting all the benefits from us, so don't complain, just let us work the way we're going to wink and a nod, you know. And so I guess that's part of the big problem. But it really started out, now, to be fair, Benjamin Franklin did turn the gift in, and they did return it to him, and several other people that had snuff boxes and gifts and stuff did turn them over to the government. And what really the law is written, so you're supposed to, if you know you're going to get the gift, go ask Congress if you can have it first before you accept it. But being in France and taking a year to get back, of course he had to bring it back. But as soon as he got back, he let them notify that he had been given this gift. And he explicitly stated that he granted no favors or promised nothing because he did get it. But people still got jerked out of place because he even accepted it. But here they said it was just gifts. But, you know, I was told or read somewhere that some of the Native American tribes up north say gifts make slaves. And maybe that's the beginning of it. There's no gifts. So they're even saying, well, if you gave $5 to your senator or somebody to get reelected in campaign funds, that constituted it, because the groups that were concerned all still had a clear message in mind. But it's the explicit and implying that you want something, that, and the explicit behavior that somebody wants something, then that would constitute bribery and or corruption. So it used to be anything, any reason was corruption. And a lot of people were tried. A lot less people in the national scene, though, were actually convicted more than at state level. State level corruption, people actually went to prison and all that. So it went right up through Citizen United, and that's what really got their ire up on this case, was because they were a corporation. And I guess they ruled in the fact that because the corporation was an association of citizens and there was no implicit quid pro quo, then therefore this corruption charge was not corruption. That's the way the judge ruled. So you're splitting hairs and finding opinion that fits today's model. But if we'd gone back to the old way, any explicit, like millions of dollars, because this contribution was $5.8 million that they gave for what it was they were trashing Hillary Clinton on the 2008 election. I don't know if she was running then or what the story was, because Obama won again, or maybe she was running against Obama and Obama won. That was the first year of the election. So it wasn't the 2016 election. So that's how it came about, and it was for ads on a television station, WTRL, and that's what got this lawsuit started. So that's where it went from there. But they talked about a lot of the oil companies, and I guess the biggest person who started and stopped a lot of corruption and got really on it as a public was McKinley was brought in, and the Republicans tried to get him, but he was shot and killed. So, as the president, assassinated. So Teddy Roosevelt took over, and then he said, "No, we're going after you." So that was the antitrust laws that came in, and Teapot Dome later after him, and all of that. That really these anti-corruption and major cases came about. The only bad thing about the outcome of the antitrust laws is that when Standard Oil was forced to break up into 37 companies, they actually got bigger and it really didn't do anything. So Standard Oil then became and was broken up into all the other companies called Mobil, Exxon, and et cetera, et cetera. So the graft goes on, and the pollution still keeps going, right? Or polluted politics. Maybe that's what it is, but everybody has to judge for themselves, and it's at so many levels. And initially, self-interest is what drives these things. So for public interest, we don't need corruption. We got this book at the Tucson Pima County Library. You can get it at yours. It's called Corruption in America by Zephyr Teachout. And I guess she really is making a point here. And read the book and find out. Thank you, and keep watching KRAZ TV.